Guys, 90 right back again. It's been a long time that I wanted to do this video because last year basically what I did was I went around to different car dealerships and I wanted to get a personalized view and opinion about cars coming straight from the mechanics of the place, and I wasn't able to do that because basically here in Italy, most of the times, collaborations and things like that never really happen much unless it's monetary gain. So I'm just going to have to be winging it today, talking about cars in general. And the first place I wanted to start off talking about is licensing and registration in Italy. So if you get to the age of around 13 to 14 years old here in Italy, you can legally get a license for a moped or a scooter, if you want to call it that, how they call it here in Europe. Fire! Tell me why. Basically, when you get a scooter license, you're going to be able to get any scooter up to about 125 cc. And basically after that, when you turn 16, you are officially able to get a pink slip where you can drive a car just as long as you're accompanied by an adult that has had a license for at least 10 years. So then after 18, if you turn 21, you can officially get a license for motorcycles that are 500 cc or higher, instead of your 125 like your mopeds or scooters. And the main reason why I wanted to start off the video today in front of this place that's right behind me, and the place that's right behind me is basically the motor licensing and vehicle registration place of my hometown of Vicenza. And the main reason why I want to start the video off here is because let's just say I think maybe from the beginning of the early 2000s all the way up to about 2005, basically what happened is that the Italian government did a consensus, and they found out that basically the second killer of people here in Italy was basically car accidents, and the first being cancer for some reason. And so apparently at the time before 2005, what happened is that at the time you could legally drink a glass of wine or at lunchtime or dinner time and go in the car and not have any problems, just as long as your blood alcohol level wasn't 5% or more. So if you were 5% and less of alcohol level, you were considered able to drive. So in 2005 that all changed. So what happened in 2005 is basically it went to a zero tolerance level. And the problem with the zero tolerance level is that even the laws changed in regarding to DUI stops and stuff like that. So the thing is that what happened is that nowadays, if you get stopped with a DUI, if you're living in Italy, if you're a resident of Italy and you have an Italian driver's license, what will happen if you get stopped with a DUI, depending on the cause, I mean, normally if you're a tourist, you won't have this problem unless you had an accident where somebody died or got hurt. You will be paying a fine, you might be facing jail time or maybe extradition to your home country. So instead, if you're an Italian citizen, on that hand, and you get stopped with a DUI, the process is quite heavy and quite severe. I have been through this process myself. I'm going to tell you how that happened later on during this video. And basically what happens is when you get stopped for a DUI here in Italy, if you have an accident or if you have something serious, that somebody got hurt or something like that, usually your car gets taken away and your license gets taken away. So me personally, I didn't have an accident and everything like that. So basically what happens is they take your license away, and after 6 months you have to do drug testing, and not just any drug testing. We're talking about 6 or 9 consecutive in 2 weeks piss testing. After the 6 months that you've waited, you do the piss test, and plus on top of that, at the end of the 6 or 9 piss tests that you do a hair follicle test. And trust me, the hair follicle test, they will test for everything. They will test mostly for opiates, any kind of drug that you can think of, they test for. So basically, if you get stopped for DUI here in Italy, you're basically screwed. So what happens is after 6 months, you do the test. If you pass, okay, your license gets renewed. And the problem about getting your license renewed is that it only lasts another 6 months. So what happens after those 6 months, you do the test again, and not to mention, you pay for each one of these tests. So and I have paid personally for my own tests that I've did for this issue. And usually it goes from about 60, 90 euros for the piss test. And for the hair follicle test, it goes all the way up to 110 to 120 euros, depending on which municipality you're doing the tests in. So basically what happens is after those 6 months, you do the test, you pass. Another 6 months, you do another test, they pass. And 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10, 12. And I personally don't know how long it lasts because I am still doing it myself. So I think now the next test that I personally have to do is, I think, 2022. So now that I got that out of the way, I just wanted to point that out because I think that's a real important issue here in Italy, and that's why, and trust me, I've seen it millions and millions of times. I've heard it from many truck drivers that have lost their jobs because what would happen is that we have lots of drivers and lots of truck drivers from Romania or Croatia and things like that, because ever since the euro and the European Union started introducing the euro, that lots of these countries, they have lots of people that started to migrate from those countries here to Italy. So lots of truck drivers trying to get their Italian license so that they can do business here in Italy and get more money and get paid more than they would be getting paid basically in their own country. So with that said, today I just wanted to put that out right there in the beginning, just to give you guys a general explanation of how things work in that sense of licensing here in Italy. So you would understand why even today lots of Italians, they hold really dear to their licensing, you know, to their driver's license. So and I'm gonna tell you guys some stories along the way because I think it's necessary, in my opinion, to say some really funny stories in regards of cars here in Italy. So let's get to that, and I'm going to go to the next location so we can talk about that. So see you there. So to start off talking about cars here in Italy in general, if you were in Italy before the year 2003, 2004, you would notice that most of the cars that you would see around on the street would be mostly European or Italian cars. It's only after 2003 and 2004 that the Italian market started to import cars from Asia and North America. Most of the cars that you'll find here in Italy will mostly be smaller cars compared to the North American market, where the cars are more bigger in power and things like that because of bigger roads, obviously. One of the things that I wanted to point out here in Europe, I don't know for other countries, I know North America doesn't have it, but when you go around the streets, especially the gas stations and things like that, you're going to find that there is something called GPL or LPG, depending on which country that you're visiting here in Europe. And basically what that is, though, they have even a like a methane gas system that works the same way. So basically what it is, it's a gas system that they put these tanks inside your car. Basically, they can either take out the extra spare tire and put the tank like a donut tank in there. So what this does is it doesn't substitute your gas, and this doesn't work for diesel cars, but in general, for regular gas petrol cars, here in Europe, there's a GPL or LPG system, which is basically like a natural gas system, almost like the gas on your stove, but the gas, I think, is much more refined for cars, basically for the car motors. And this is going to save you up a lot of gas. I have it on my car right now, the car that I have at the moment. And I just wanted to point that out just in case any of you guys are visiting Italy and were wondering what that is if you stop at a gas station or auto grill for that reason. So on with the rest of the video. So now we're on the outskirts of the city, and this basically is towards Altavilla, going towards Verona basically. And what I want to say today about this place is basically a story that a friend of mine told me years ago. So this friend of mine, he comes into a local bar, which me and my friends usually frequent most of the time. So he comes in with his girlfriend, and he tells me this crazy story about the cocktail bar behind me. And by the way, the name is the Circus, by the way. And basically what happened is that he tells me this story that a guy dressed up in a suit, basically, he comes in there and he's trying to, I guess, impress one of the women that's in there, right? So they start getting into a conversation between him, his girlfriend, this guy, and the other woman that he's trying to impress. So the whole time the guy is saying, you know, I own this business, I own that businesses, and this and that, you know, saying that basically I'm, you know, a really wealthy guy that, you know, has businesses around Italy and stuff like that. So he points out the car outside, and it's a BMW Series 5. So he's sitting there looking at the car, and he says, you know, well, you know, I just bought this car about 2 weeks ago. And so what happens is my friend's looking at the car, and he notices the keychain connected to the car key that's on the table, because the guy put his car keys on the table. So in front of the guy and in front of the woman that he's trying to impress, he blatantly says out to the guy, he says, hey, if that's your car, but how come it's written Eurocar on your keychain? And mind this, Eurocar is basically a, how do you say, a rental car company. So, so as soon as he said this, you know, the guy just totally froze and he couldn't say anything, you know. He was just totally like speechless in front of this woman that he was trying to impress for the last half hour or so. And then all of a sudden my friend, you know, he's just like, you know, oh, you know, look at the time, we have to go, you know. So it's just one of the funniest stories that I had to say right now, because I mean, I still think it's funny to this day. I mean, can you imagine that you go to a cocktail bar and you hear a guy talking about, you know, all businesses and everything, and all of a sudden he has a keychain with written Eurocar. So apparently my friend was telling me while he was walking away from the bar, he overheard the guy trying to explain that to the woman, which he just told this woman, you know, the car is mine, I actually paid for it 2 weeks ago. And then he comes up with some story talking about that the car was a rental car from the company and whatever. So I mean, that's just one of the stories that I just wanted to point out here. I mean, it's funny, I still laugh about it to this day, because the things that men will do here in Italy to get women is ridiculous, especially regarding cars. So that's just one of the funny stories that I wanted to tell you guys today about. So it's still funny today to me. I mean, because I mean, I've heard millions of other stories that are almost the same thing, but I mean, this one was particularly funny because, I mean, my friend was telling me that this guy just totally remained speechless in front of this woman. Okay guys, to tell you guys the next story here in relation to cars, I have to go back a little bit in time to explain to you guys something. So, as you know, my father's American, my mother's Italian, and basically my grandfather's old enough that he has seen the Second World War, so he has different viewpoints on the world in regards, in relation to other people. And the reason why I say this is because my grandfather is a really talented person. I mean, he has been a mechanic in his time, where, I mean, because he's did lots of different jobs. So a mechanic, plumber, electrician, carpentry. He's done basically any kind of heavy duty work that you can think of. So when it comes to cars, and that's part of the story that I wanted to tell you guys right now, is that the first car that I ever bought was a Citroen C3. And basically, when I bought my first car, my grandfather was giving me crap basically because he says, you know, oh, you know, Italian cars are the best, you know. Why would you buy like a car from outside of Italy, you know? I mean, you should have got a Fiat Punto and stuff like that, you know? So basically what happened is that every single time that I had a piece or I had a problem with my Citroen C3, we're talking about the old Citroen C3, not the new ones that you would see today. So what happened is every single time like a piece broken off my car or something happened, like it broke down or something, so he would always give me crap about, you know, you should have bought an Italian car or Alfa Romeo or something. So so the strange thing is, and the reason why I came here in this location to tell you guys this story is because at a certain point I had a problem with my fuel injectors and the spark plugs in my car. And since I told my grandfather, I said, you know, I'm not going to bring it, you know, to a regular town mechanic and stuff, because I don't think the town mechanic is going to fix my car like it should be, because I'm tired of having problems with my car. So I told my grandfather I would just rather go back to the dealership from where I bought it, because I know that they have mechanics there that can fix my car. So I mean, in the whole time that we're talking about this, he's just continuously giving me crap about, you know, me having bought a car that's outside of Italy, you know, because he's really, you know, I wouldn't say patriotic. It's just that him having worked as a mechanic, you know, I mean, he really thinks, you know, he always tells me all the time, you know, Italian cars are the best and everything. So anyway, I get in my car, my Citroen C3, and to put this into perspective, he used to have a Volkswagen Beetle. We're talking about the old Beetles. Instead now, I mean, ever since I was a kid, basically, he switched his car, and he has an old Fiat 127. Seriously, this is he really has a Fiat 127 to this day, and he keeps it in good shape, you know. And like my father says sometimes, you know, he says, oh, I think your grandfather only likes cars that he can fix himself, and that's pretty much true. So so I get in my car, and basically he's following me with his car. And we're going way out because he doesn't even know where the place is, because he knows he's never been there. So we get up to this place, and basically the place right behind me here that I'm about to walk up to, for legal reasons, I'm just going to film this part of the video at this part of this story just right now, and then I'll walk up and show you guys the place. But anyway, as you can see behind me, there is the Citroen dealership. And basically what happens is we get into the dealership, we talk to one of the mechanics, and the mechanic says, okay, yeah, just bring your car in and we'll check it out. So bring the car in, he opens up the hood, you know, he turns on the motor, he looks at what the problem is, you know. So at a certain point he takes out the piece, the fuel rail, he takes out the fuel rail and parts of some other pieces, and he looks at it and he says, well, I have to get a second opinion from another mechanic. So what happens is that he says, you know, hey, just follow me for a second, because I need to go check back with these other mechanics in the next garage that's right in the same place, you know. So at a certain point we're following the mechanic, and we couldn't help to notice that, you know, all the mechanics that we were seeing, that we were coming up to, basically had Ferrari's mechanic suits on. So we're trying to figure this out. We're like, what? And then like a certain point we find ourselves inside basically a garage that fixes personal people's Ferraris, basically. So we're literally sitting in the garage, surrounded by tons of Ferraris, and we're just, you know, you know, mouth open, just, oh my God, like what? So, and my grandfather, you know, he comes up to me and he taps me on the shoulder. He's like, oh, do you see the two Testarossas? And I'm like, yeah, I do see the two Testarossas, but personally, I was kind of looking at the F40, you know, so, and basically they had, there was a yellow Testarossa on the hoist, and then like another red one at the bottom, and then the F40 right next to it, and then next to it they had like a black Countach, and then I was kind of reaching my head on the side, and I'm like, you know, trying to look on the side to see the other cars, and they had a whole row of vintage Ferraris, so, I'm a 90s person. My grandfather's older, obviously, so I mean, we both love Ferrari, so we have different, you know, different taste, you know. So I mean, he loves the Testarossa. Me personally, I'm more of a F40, F50, and lately the 599. I love those cars. So basically we're sitting there looking in awe, literally inside this garage, you know. We're just like, oh my God, we never knew this place existed, you know. So we're sitting there looking around and we're just like, wow, you know. So the mechanic comes back, you know, he still has the piece in his hand, and he says, okay, I talked to the other mechanics and we can get back to you in 3 days, so you're gonna have to leave the car here, and you can come back basically in 3 days to pick up the car. So, and we asked the mechanic, we said, you know, how come there is, you know, Ferrari mechanics in a Citroen place, you know? Because, I mean, even me, I mean, we both were just, you know, like, what in the world is happening, you know? So what happened is that basically the mechanic told us, he said that Citroen and Ferrari cars basically have unique motors compared to other car manufacturers. So the problem is that when you have to get it fixed or something like that, you have to go either to a specialized mechanic or a specialized garage that has certified mechanics to fix certain cars like that. So we didn't even know this when we first came up to that, you know, we didn't know this, you know, I mean, so, and that's the funny thing though too, is that we're driving home, you know, and I'm looking at my grandfather and I said, hey, you know, don't ever, you know what I mean, you know, don't ever talk trash about my car again, you know. And my grandfather looks at me and he goes, you know, he looks at me and he goes, you know, that's something new, you know, that's something that's different, that's never happened. And I was like, wow, you know, I was just like, yeah, that is kind of so. And then when I went home, I actually looked it up. And it's actually true that basically every Citroen and Ferraris have unique motors that basically need specialized mechanics to work on it. And I didn't know this, so it was something that, a little story that I wanted to point out to you guys that that happened to me personally. So yeah, so let me just give you the look around here, as you can see. And that's the funny thing too about these places, is that obviously because it's a garage where they fix personal people's cars. So the thing is that they don't really put too many signs out, because obviously, I mean, it's obvious that you don't want people stealing your cars. So as you can see behind me, this is the garage that we were actually walking through. So that's basically, you know, the story that I wanted to tell, and that that happened to me. So unfortunately, I did have an accident with my C3, and I'll tell you guys about that later. As I was saying before, I used to have a Citroen C3, and unfortunately, after 3 or 4 years of having that car, I had an accident. Basically, I was by myself, nobody got hurt, fortunately, and nobody else was in the accident, because basically it was raining. It was a rainy day. I had just got off of work, and I was quite frankly acting a little bit stupid behind the wheel, and I went off the road and had an accident, and basically the whole back axis of the car got destroyed, so I had to throw that away. So in searching for another new car, I only had a little bit of money, so I had to go search for a used car. And the difference here in Europe in comparison to other countries with used cars is that since you're closer to Germany, you can get a German car at a low price. And that's what most people do here. For example, lots of tourists, and especially lots of military soldiers here in my hometown of Vicenza, what they do is they would come here to Europe buy a BMW or used BMW or a Mercedes and then bring it back to the United States, we're talking anywhere from $20,000 all the way down to $12,000 for a used car that doesn't really have that many miles. And the thing about the mileage is that most of these cars, we're talking anywhere between Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes, and Audis, they hold their kilometers and miles really good. So the thing is that you spend maybe about 10 or 20 or even 15,000 for a used car over here, especially if it's like a BMW or a Mercedes or something like that. So what would happen is that you only pay about, maybe I'd say the max, it depends on the car, it depends on the make of the model. So what would happen is that you would spend maybe about 5,000 to 2,000 more euros or dollars, depending on, you know, regulation and taxes, and converting also your specifications for your car to convert it from kilometers to miles or miles to kilometers, depending on obviously where you're going to ship the car to. So basically what happened is I went, after I had my car accident, a few months later I was looking for a new car, and fortunately I found basically my car that I have now, and it was in a used parking lot, a used car parking lot on the military base here in Vicenza, and I was fortunate enough to find this car. And the starting price, I was kind of perplexed by this at the beginning because I didn't know at the time about this used car, the used car dealerships over here that sell these cars for such a low price. So basically what happened was I was looking at the price, and it was about $5,000, right? $5,000. And me, since I was working on the Italian economy at the time, with the translation from euros to dollars, I only spent about 4,700 euros. And I was asking the owner, I said, why are you selling a car like this that only has 94,000 kilometers? And he was telling me, he said, it's just because I'm leaving the country really fast and I just want to get rid of the car. So I said, okay, it's a good deal. So basically, I'll show you guys now exactly what I bought. Here we go. So this is my current car. It is a Mercedes CLK 200 from 1997. And one thing that most people don't know about cars like these, especially I'd say anywhere from the year 2001, 2002, any BMW or Mercedes before that, they never had all the plastic panels and stuff that you see on cars today. As you can see here, this is all metal. It's all, you know, metal. You know, there is no, because before the year 2001, 2002, BMWs and Mercedes, especially Audis and Volkswagens, they used to make their cars really, really sturdy. And this is a really good example of that. When I bought this car, like I said before, 94,000 kilometers, really good car, really reliable. Me personally, I know lots of people will say, you know, oh, he's trying to show off, you know, he's got a good car and everything like that. But one thing that I've found out with these cars in specific, any kind of BMW, Mercedes and things like that, and I found this out after, after I bought the car, I found this out doing some research. So basically, what you have is the ride quality of these kind of cars. The thing that you're going to love about it a lot is that Audi, Mercedes, BMW, they engineered these cars so that the body of the car is more still, and what actually works against the potholes and things like that you find on the street is the suspension. So when you're running over potholes, the suspension are moving up and down and everything, taking out all the road, you know, all the feeling of the potholes and things like that. And basically the body of the car stands still. That's the beauty of having a BMW or Mercedes. And most people I know will usually say, oh, you have a really fast car, like, do you go really fast with these cars and stuff like that? It's true, lots of people speed with these cars. They love to have fun going fast, but me personally, ever since I bought this car, I found out that just the ride quality itself, and we're talking just riding normally, or because this basically is my daily use car that I use daily. So just to show you that it is my car and it's not a rental car like I was saying before, you know, so added a little bit of my own touches here. You know, I am a great big fan of Gran Turismo. I play the video games. I played it ever since the first, the second, the third, you know, I played all of them. I still play GT Sport to this day. So I'm a skateboarder. That's where you find the little DC sticker here, and then here's another sticker from a skate shop that's in my local city here of Vicenza, Blunt. If you find them, they're a really good skate shop. This, on the other hand, says slow down, take it easy. That is from Switzerland. I got that when I went to travel into Switzerland. And another thing that I wanted to tell you guys, and I talked about this before earlier in the video, is that let me open up the trunk here to show you guys. So the GPL systems, because this car is petrol or gas, like regular, you know, regular gas. And basically what I have right here in the back of the trunk is an 80-liter tank of GPL, basically your natural gas that I talked about before in the video. So this saves me lots of gas. The only problem with this system is that if you're thinking about taking it back to your home country, I do not know if you can keep this in your car. So maybe when you get back to the United States, for example, if you're going to bring it back to the United States, you might have to take this out. You might have to go back to the place that did the work for you and take it out and have everything done to specifications. So that's just one of the things that I wanted to show you guys here in regards to cars. And this is my own personal one, just to show you that. There's my skateboard. So yeah, triangle right there, the usual, and some of my own personal. Picked this up in Switzerland when I traveled to Switzerland. Just a little troll, you know, just for when I'm driving. My little Tweety bird right here. I love Tweety birds. So, and one thing about that I really love that I was saying just now is that these cars. Let me show you now here. So basically, open up the door here. So open up the hood release here. So the one thing I really love about the older cars, the older Mercedes, and you can talk to anybody that owns a BMW or Mercedes here in Europe, and they'll tell you that the one thing that they like a lot is that these cars are sturdy. Just as long as you keep the oil changed, just as long as you keep your tires in check and stuff like that, it's going to last you a long time. I know, and I've met certain owners of BMWs or Mercedes that have had their cars all the way up to 500,000 kilometers and they're still going strong. And the one thing that I wanted to show you guys here is that me personally, I've had my bumper-to-bumper accidents with this car in particular, and I have to say that one thing I really love about the old cars is they're sturdy. And what I mean by sturdy is, if you look here, you're going to see that the radiator is here in the inside, right? And right along the radiator, there is a steel bar going all the way across. So basically what happened is when I had the accident, of the few times that I had the bumpers to bumpers, right here, basically the steel, the steel bar right here only bent inwards. So when I had to bring it to the mechanic, they put it on the hoist and everything, and they just pulled the steel bar out, and that was the only thing, and the bumper just needed some reconstruction, and that was pretty much about it. And that's the beauty about having a car like this, the older, before 2001, before 2002, that's the beauty about having cars like this. And as you can see, the inline 4-liter right here, this is 2000 cc. I only got 136 horsepower. It's not a lot, but I mean, it feels great when you're driving. I just wanted to show you guys that, just to show you, you know, my daily driver. And another thing that I wanted to point out is that I know obviously you guys are gonna have questions about this. So tricked out cars here in Italy. Here in Italy, you cannot trick out any cars. You can't put NOS in it. You can't do anything like that unless it already came from the factory made like that. Most of the people that I know that have tricked out cars, that maybe changed mufflers, put turbos in, things like that, what they do is they go to Germany with their car and they get it tricked out in Germany. They get all the parts, all the performance parts fitted in their car in Germany. And since Germany has a really good regulation system in terms of cars, they know their business when they have to put their hands on cars and things like that. So what happens is you go to Germany, you pay a certain amount of taxes and money to get the car regulated up to spec, to say that it's a street legal car. And basically after you do that, you pay the taxes too for bringing it from Germany back to Italy again. And when you're here in Italy, you have a legal street road car that is modified, whether it's your turbo, whether it's your mufflers and things like that. And to tell you the truth, my car right here, I have never touched anything on it, never needed to, never wanted to, because I love it the way it is. I mean, if I had the money, I would have brought it to Germany and did all the modifications, but personally I don't really see the point in that, because as I said before, the body of the cars in general, BMW, Mercedes, Audis, they're really made to facilitate the easy driving experience, you know. Even though the motors are really strong, even though, you know, you can go really fast and things like that, to tell you the truth, with this car, I've never really gone that fast with this car. The fastest I can tell you that I've been with this car was on the Autostrada, and I have a slight problem with this car because the thing is that I got to 160 kilometers an hour on an Autostrada, and usually in the Autostrada you can only do 130, but some places they don't have speed traps and things like that, so you can, for a short period, bring up your car to that speed. So what happened was, I brought it up to speed, and I left it there for a few seconds because I was trying to race with a friend of mine, you know, with a friend of mine. So what happened is that after a certain distance on the road, what happened is that there's a little computer chip here on the left inside the car, right, that runs the car, the little tiny electronic computer chip, and that died on me. So basically, I had to stop the car, let it cool off, and then it started as normal again, and I didn't trust the car then. So this happened to me twice already, so now I don't really trust going that fast. Plus, because me personally, I'm not a person that really likes fast cars for that reason. I mean, I know everybody's going to talk trash about this, leave whatever you want in the comments, but to tell you the truth, just for that electronic card piece inside my car, the electronic chip, I had to pay upwards of about 260 euro each time I changed that thing, and I changed it twice already. So and just know that if you're going to take a BMW or a Mercedes or an Audi for that reason to another country, just know that you're going to be paying more on parts. So a piece like that I paid 260 for, you're going to be paying upwards of maybe $500 to $600 if you bring it back to the United States, just for the import cost. Or maybe you might find it less, you never know, because some of these places might have like an old salvage yard where you might find old car pieces and things like that. And that's the same that I did for this car for certain pieces, because when I first bought this car, the horn was not working so well, the wheels were worn out, and the brake pads were worn out. So basically the brake pads, when I pay for them, they're usually around the 200 mark, basically around there for all four. So 150 if you go to a dealership that's not from Mercedes and you just want to have some brake pads just for the moment, you know. So that's just one of the things that I wanted to talk about in regards to coming here to Europe, buying a car here in Europe, whether it's modified or not and things like that. So just wanted to state that right there for the record. So now we're just going to go on right now with the rest of the video. So see you at the next location. Okay guys, last part of the video here, and right now I'm in a shopping center called Le Piramidi. As you can see behind me, the sign up there says Le Piramidi, and basically this is a shopping center a little bit outside of the city, and one of the biggest ones for that reason. And the reason why I came here is to explain to you some of the things that have been lately happening here in Italy in regards to car trends. So basically, if you find any people coming from Romania, Croatia, the eastern parts of Europe, like I said before, they've been migrating here. Most of them, you'll usually find that they're usually attracted more to like the BMWs or Mercedes or Audis and things like that. Instead, lately here in Italy, among the Italians, especially the Italians that are that have money, that are rich or have good paying jobs for that matter, there's been this current trend with Land Rover and Range Rover cars, SUVs. So basically here in Italy, from what I've seen, you're going to be seeing basically 3 different kinds of owners of Land Rovers or Range Rovers. And the first kind of owner that you would find would basically be the wife of, or a divorced wife of a rich person, or on the other hand, a woman that has her own business, that has enough money, you know, has a good paying job to actually buy a Land Rover or Range Rover. And the second kind of person that you'll find that has a Range Rover or a Land Rover for that reason will be maybe a guy that owns a business, a guy that maybe probably has a good paying job, lots of money, that sort of thing. And the third person is basically that kind of father that said, you know, how do you say, he only uses it for family, you know, family reunions and family trips and vacations and things like that. And don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against Land Rover, I don't have anything against Range Rover. It's just that lately here in Italy, it's been a trend among Italians that in the sense that they buy a Range Rover or Land Rover to look rich. So basically, it's kind of funny though too, because every Land Rover and Range Rover owner that I've asked in the past, all the way up to today, I've always asked them one question. I said, because I've spent the first 13 years of my life in America, and every single time somebody talks to me about an SUV or something like that, at least 2 times out of the year they have taken the SUV out off the road, you know, like, you know, off-roading basically. So every single time I ask the question to Italian people here that own Land Rovers or Range Rovers, if they've ever been off-roading with their car, and they'll all 90% out of the time they will always tell you, they will say, I'm too afraid to break my car. Yeah! I mean, I understand that the market these days are luxury SUVs and everything, but I mean, do you ever have any fun? That's my question, you know? I mean, going off-roading is something that if you have an SUV or a 4x4 car, you want to at least try at least once, even if it's just a dirt road, you know? So Italians, in that sense, they don't, you know, go off-roading much, you know? So, I mean, unless it's rally, of course, lots of Italians are into rally, but other than rally, if it's talking about like SUVs and things like that, they never take it off-road. And the reason why I'm doing this part of the video here in the shopping mall is exactly because of that. Because the only time that I've ever seen, and this is going to be completely funny, I mean, this is just ridiculous. The only time that Italians ever use their off-roading vehicles off-road is during Christmas time. And why is that? Because as you can see here in the parking lot where I am, there have lots of these traffic islands, you know, these little tiny traffic islands right here. So basically what happens is during Christmas time, they can't find parking in the parking lot. So what happens is they park on top of the parking islands. Basically, they park right on the grass, and that is the only time that you'll ever see an SUV off-road here in Italy. And it's just funny to me because, I mean, why would you buy an SUV that's made to go off-road and you're only going to use it during Christmas time, you know, to go off-road onto a parking lot you know, island, so to speak, you know. So how is that? I just find it kind of funny because, you know, I mean, thinking, because I'm from the United States, you know. I mean, I spent my whole childhood in the United States. So the thing is that when you come here to Italy and you hear people that don't use their off-roading vehicles for off-roading, it just sounds funny to me, you know. So, and lately, as you can see here, they have just installed, and we're talking maybe about 2 months, 3 months, they've just installed Tesla chargers, because lots of people here today are actually buying Tesla cars in regards to other cars that came here, electric hybrids, gas, which I talked about before, the GPL and that sort of thing. So as you can see here, I'll show you guys around here real quick. So you can see we have charging stations basically for Tesla, and that's basically a new thing that's around here in Italy for the moment, in the sense of technology-wise in cars. And I just wanted to add this last bit of video just to show you guys the innovations that Italy is going through now in terms of car technology. So I'm gonna wrap the video up here, and I hope you've enjoyed it up until now. So see you later. Peace.